So you decided you want to build a PC, but you don't have a clue what's in it. Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Gibby's World of Tech. Today we're going to be talking about all the components that go inside a modern PC. If you ask a lot of people, you would get a lot of different answers on what parts they think are in a PC. That doesn't include your enthusiast builder, obviously. But if you're new and you just decided you want to build your own computer for the first time, these are things you need to know and understand so that you can feel more confident as you go about doing your research. So to kick things off, let's talk about the case. Now, the case is the structure that houses all the components that go inside your PC. And quality goes with cost. If you spend $50 on a case, you're probably going to get a low quality case that's going to disappoint you in a variety of ways. However, you also don't have to spend $500 on a case because you might actually get the same result. Here, it's a matter of making sure the case meets your need and your aesthetic. What do you like? Cases come in a variety of colors, typically black or white. You can find some in red, and you can get custom powder coating and painting done. That will come with an extra cost, obviously. Now, one thing you want to watch out for are themed cases. And I'm talking about cases such as Marvel Universe or Jurassic Park or race cars. A lot of times these just have paint and some stickers on them and then a premium price tag. You can do that yourself, actually. So you want to make sure that you're not getting swayed by flashy things. And speaking of flashy things, don't get confused when you see a case with a lot of flashing lights. We're going to talk more about that later, but oftentimes you're better off to put the lights in yourself. Next up, we have the motherboard. The motherboard is the primary hub of your entire PC. It's what every component connects to in order to communicate and do the computing work. The motherboard has to match the CPU. You can't put an AMD chip on an Intel motherboard, and you can't put an Intel chip on an AMD motherboard. You won't like the outcome of that. Motherboards range in price, and they also range in features. It's important that you research to find out which motherboard is going to be best for your needs. The CPU, or Central Processing Unit, also it's the brain. This is what does all the computing tasks in your computer. They generate a tremendous amount of heat while they work, and so they require cooling. Generally speaking, faster is better, but that's to a point. If you're only going to play Uno and Solitaire, you don't need the fastest processor available. If you're doing 3D rendering, on the other hand, you need a very fast processor or CPU. Keep in mind, faster means it costs more. Memory. You'll hear memory used, and it's referring to the RAM, which stands for Random Access Memory. RAM is a volatile memory. That means that when it loses power, it loses the data that was in it at the moment. RAM is used in conjunction with the CPU to help it schedule tasks and help the CPU work more fluidly and smoothly without hitting a bottleneck or a slowdown, kind of like a traffic jam. The RAM is a very important part of your computer, and it shouldn't be taken for granted. Generally, faster and more is better than having newer RAM but less of it. However, the new generation of RAM that's coming out is coming down in price and will be a better option soon. Right now, though, it is still expensive, and you can achieve a better result for less money with the current generation, which is DDR4. When it comes to RAM, 32 gigabytes, which is a measurement of the amount of RAM, is good for most users. 24 gigabytes is probably the sweet spot, but it's not good to mix and match these numbers out of order. They typically like to be in groups of 8. So you would do 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. You get the picture. 32 gigabytes is a very good place to be at, and it leaves you room to expand if your needs require it. The GPU. This is the graphics processing unit. It's also called the video card. Some people might call it the display adapter. It all is responsible for getting an image to your screen, your display. Unless you only play solitaire, you're probably going to need some type of GPU that is separate from your processor. Some CPUs have integrated video, but they're only really good for Netflix, YouTube videos, and low-level games. Any serious game, you're going to want a dedicated graphics card. And they can range in price, but keep this in mind. It makes no sense to put a $1,000 graphics card in a $500 computer with a $25 display. It needs to be balanced to the computer, and it also needs to meet your needs and not overly exceed your needs, because again, faster is better, but faster costs more money. Storage. Storage is any form of non-volatile memory. That means when the power goes out, you don't lose the data that's on that storage. As of right now, the common storage type used is a solid-state drive, or SSD. A newer form of that is an NVMe. NVMEs are tremendously faster than SSDs, solid-state drives, just as solid-state drives are tremendously faster than the old spinning type drives, or HDDs, hard disk drives. Hard disk drives have gone away slowly because they were very prone to errors and failures, and they made a lot of noise, and they generated heat. SSDs generate some heat of their own, but it's generally dissipated easily with proper cooling in the case. The power supply unit. The power supply unit, or PSU, as you'll hear it called, is responsible for converting 120 volts from the wall outlet to a 12 volt or DC voltage for most of your components in your computer. Some components use 5 volts DC, some use negative voltage, and some use 3.3 volts. You get the idea. There are varying voltages within your computer, and the power supply's job is to convert that electricity into a usable voltage. Now, bigger is better. It is much better to have more power supply than you need. The typical size is 750 watts. Watts are how power supplies are rated in terms of size. And then there's the quality standard rating, which is bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And without going into too much detail, you want to try to go with gold and platinum. They do cost a little more, but you get a much better product. And that's very important. If you go cheap on a power supply, the result can be that you have system failures, you can have component damage, or power supplies also come in 3 forms. You have a form that is called non-modular, which means you have all the wires coming out of the back of it. You have semi-modular, which means your basic wires are permanently attached, but then your optional wiring, you can plug in or leave it out depending on your needs. And then there's fully modular. There are no wires coming out of the back. They are separate and they plug in as you need them. Modular power supplies are the easiest to build with. They do cost a little bit more, and unfortunately it's not wise to mix different brand cables with different power supplies due to the possibility that they don't quite match up right. This is becoming less common, but it's still a bad practice. Modular power supplies are the easiest to build with and are worth it. Cooling. Cooling your computer is extremely important. If your computer is allowed to overheat, it will result in system failure and component damage. Most commonly on a modern computer, once it reaches an overheat situation, it will shut down. Having it shut down this way too many times will cause damage. So to avoid this, we use different methods of cooling. Now, the first thing you're going to have to keep cool is your CPU. As I mentioned, they create a lot of heat. So standard with some CPUs is what's called an air cooler or CPU cooler. And this is simply a heat sink with a fan on it that mounts directly on top of the processor. There are aftermarket versions available that are tremendously better, but they're loud. They do make a good bit of noise, and they take up a lot of space. A better option is what's called an AIO, or an all-in-one cooling system. This system works very much like the cooling system on an engine. It has a radiator, it has a pump, it has fans, and it has a coolant in a closed system. And it's under some level of pressure, but you're never going to open the system. It is meant to be self-contained, not leak. They last on average 5 years if they're of good quality. And then you also have the custom water loop. This system is much more expensive, but you get a lot more options. Your graphics card, your processor, even some of your storage can be set up on a custom water loop. You get to choose the color of the coolant, the type of tubing, whether you want it to be see-through or not. The options are endless, but it is much more expensive, and it's not an easy thing to do if you're inexperienced with it. The AIO, on the other hand, if you can put in a regular fan, you can put in an AIO with some guidance. Lighting. I mentioned lighting on cases earlier. Lighting is a very popular way to customize any computer now, and almost every part is available in an RGB or lit up form, whether it's memory, whether it's storage, whether it's the graphics card, fans, the case itself, you name it. I think everything has RGB available except for the processor. That's probably around the corner.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
RGB lighting can be a really fun way to accent your computer, make it your own, and it really does add a touch of class. Peripherals. Peripherals are anything that you connect to your computer. The first peripherals that you're going to need are a mouse and keyboard. Anything beyond that is still going to be a peripheral, whether it's a thumb drive or it's a capture device of some kind, maybe a camera. These are all examples of peripherals. Now with your keyboard and mouse, it's important to understand that they are available with RGB lighting. If they're not the same brand as your other lighting, that's okay. It may require you to run another type of software, and that's usually okay with the mouse and keyboard. Beyond that, it can start to get very troublesome. So try to limit those softwares as much as you possibly can. The display, also called a monitor or a screen, even a TV, this is the device that's responsible for what you see. The graphics card sends its information to the display. Displays built just for computers are usually called monitors. However, TVs are getting very close to being the same quality. The quality is very important because if you have a high-level graphics card and a low-end display, you will have a bad experience. On the other hand, you can have a high-end display and a low-level graphics card and you'll be okay. When you add features such as G-Sync, higher refresh rates, higher resolutions, the price does go up. Also, as you go up in brand quality, the price goes up. But it's important to remember that you get what you pay for. If you want a screen or a display to last a lifetime or until you're tired of it, go for a better quality. Trying to save money here will probably result in you having to send it in for repair. Now, obviously, there's a lot of research to do on all of these components. There isn't enough time for me to go through them as thoroughly as I would like to, and frankly, it would overwhelm you. Doing the research on your own is imperative so that you learn in bits and pieces what you need to know. You don't want to overwhelm yourself because it's a lot of new information, and only you can do this research. No one can tell you what you're going to like. By going online and studying the different types of keyboards, mice, what kind of cooling system you want, how you want your case to look, that's going to let you see all the different examples of what other people have done. I have videos showing builds and different things that will give you an idea of what you can do with a computer. Other websites and other YouTube channels have examples. I encourage you, look them up, watch different videos, get different ideas. The more information, the more knowledge you gain, the more prepared you're going to be as you get ready to move into the next phase, which is building your computer. I want to thank you very much for joining me on this video, and I hope that it helped you. If it did, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. And as always, thank you for joining me in Gibby's World of Tech.